Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Liam McCraft Jr., aka Zorvalchan Less Than Guru, and today I'm going to talk about the Intuit class Adept. So the Adept is a taking of other Palladium game occupational character classes, really liking it, not seeing it in Palladium First Edition, and transporting it over, converting it to First Edition rules. So the Adept is based off of the Mystic from Rifts and the Psi Mystic from Palladium Second Edition, which is a character that naturally learns both psychic abilities and magical abilities. And why they're not academics knowing magic is because their magic comes natural to them. They sit, they meditate, and they learn spells at each level up, starting at level 1, and then they gain stuff, but then they also gain some psychic abilities as well. And because I didn't want them to have both ISP and MP magic points, because I don't use PPE, but it would be like saying instead of having the Mystic or the Psi Mystic from the other Palladium games, instead of them having to use PPE for their magic stuff and ISP for their psionic stuff, it's just intuitively power from within. So everything is fueled by ISP. Now, when I've talked about magic points before, in my magic point video, it's your level of the spell plus the effect level that you cast it at. So if you're casting a third level spell and you're third level, but you only want to cast it at first level, it's third level spell, first level, that's 4 magic points. That works the same, but I was satisfied for the most part with the psychic abilities working a little bit differently, and the ISP just being kind of for most things, a base, just whatever level you cast it at, it's X mini ISP. Sometimes it's here's the base effect. If you want to increase it, then you can pump more ISP into it. So that kind of satisfied those needs. So the amount of ISP that the Adept in my game needs to expend to create that effect can work 2 different ways, whether it's a magic way or a psychic way, but the power source itself is the same. So the attribute requirements is either ME 8 and MA of 6, or you are an elf. And this is one of my very few species-based occupations. In my mythology, elves, with the F, elf they were created with natural mystical abilities for magic and for psychic abilities, and then certain members of the elves stayed where they were and kept it, and other ones migrated and lost that ability. But the elves, they still have it. So if they want to be an adept, they can just be an adept and go down the XP chart just like every other adept. But if they want to be something else, then they're kind of old school multi-class, where as they learn, half of their XP goes towards adept and the other half goes towards whatever their other occupation is. So that's how I work that. So depending on the player can go, okay, I can be more things but advance slower, or I can focus on the adept and progress as normally as everybody else. So any alignment, no physical conditioning. There's nothing into it about them that makes them so that they would be better physically. And armor tier 3, there's no reason for an adept for that occupation of knowing magic and knowing psychic to need to be trained in armor. So that's why they're tier 3. Restrictions is they cannot come from another Intuit occupation, and I've described that previously. And the other thing is all elves are natural adepts. So if they choose another occupation, they will always advance as adept with a multiple occupation. So multiple occupations is I'm a soldier and I decide I don't like that. Now I'm going to become a wizard. The adept can do that, but half of their XP, no matter what, is going to advance them as an adept. So the one can switch and they can switch it. But if you're an elf, half of your experience at least is going to be an adept, because that's just part of them and their species. So let's look at the chart, level chart. So again, level 1 is that's where your base selective and secondary skills. 2, you gain some more ISP because that's what fuels their powers. 3 and 4 are you get your skills, which is very similar or the same as in other Palladium first edition games, character classes. Then at level 5, they regenerate their ISP at a higher rate. So normally it's 2 per hour. This increases it to 3 per hour. It's exact same reasoning that I had for my magic points at around 5th level is the occupations that have magic points will be able to regenerate faster. Otherwise, you get more power, but it takes you a longer time to get back to full, which is kind of a little wonky in my worldview and mythology. So that's why they increase from a 2 to a 3. Then at 6 and 7, they gain more ISP. At level 8, more skills. Level 9, their regeneration of their ISP increases to 4. They gain skills at 10, additional ISP, skills at 12, and the highest ISP regeneration at 5 at level 13, 14, and 15, some more ISP to use. Going into elective and secondary skills, same as Palladium. Elective skill, here's the list of the skills you are allowed to take. Secondary skills, you can take any secondary skills. These are the ones that give you bonuses. So abilities, inner strength point, ISP. What is it? It's ME. So whereas my academics were MA because that is based off of self-confidence, your mental affinity, your conviction of believing in the aspect of magic and yourself. Intuits are different. Intuits that have ISP, it's based off their mental endurance. It's just inherently into it. So they don't have to be confident of themselves. It just comes to them and it's kind of more based off of their mental endurance. So that's where that comes from. Plus a d20. And then instead of rolling randomly, they get 10 per additional level, which is really close to how mind mages work in Palladium First Edition. The Adept uses ISP, as I said, to power both spells and psychic powers. And then what I explained earlier at the beginning, that is how they cast spells, and psychic abilities are just that kind of base with some of them that allow augmentation. Then spell and psychic power acquisition. How do you gain more? You can look at the experience chart, and that will tell you how many you start with and how many you gain each level. So if we go down the experience chart, then what happens here is you have the S is spells and the C is psychic ability. So at first level, you gain 6 first level spells, and you can choose whichever 6 you want out of the list, and you choose 9 psychic abilities, anything out of the level 1 list. When you get up to level 2, you see the 6 goes to a 7, so that means you gain 1 more spell from level 1 or 2, and you don't gain any more psychic abilities at that level. You started off with a lot, so you don't get it there. But then at the next level, you gain 2 spells, and then you gain 1 psychic ability, and that would be at 3rd level. So that is a total of 10, a total of 9. And it goes all the way down until at the very end, you have 24 spells and 16 psychic abilities. Now, you noticed all of the charts I've ever had before, that that red number was what you needed to get into it. And the thing with my intuits is you start as an intuit or you don't become an intuit, and you can't switch to be another intuit. But the question was asked, if I'm not an elf, say I'm an elf or a human adept, and I start off and I get to 3rd level, then you're allowed to kind of put your natural growth on hold, switch over to another occupation using their red chart. But what if you come back? Because coming back always costs that So that's where when the player pointed out to me, I was like, yes, you're right. It would be third level for intuits like it is for magic users and the non mundane. So arms, rogues, entertainers, those need 2 levels of experience to go into. And all the mystical abilities, my clergy, my academics, those need level 3. So the intuits, if you left it and came back, because that is your natural intuitive powers, you would need 3 levels to get yourself attuned back to learning kind of your mental state and learning and accepting that lifestyle again. So that's where that comes from, and why it's blue. It's a different color. So having said that, that is my adept class. And once again, I'm Liam Crafton Jr., aka Zorvach on Less Than Guru. And until next time, I will catch you later.